more valuable than kill points this early on in the piece, because it's just showing that you're being able to survive long enough to at least even then have the possibility, the option of getting those kills. If you're getting knocked out before you even get into 8th place, then yes, you can pick up a few kills here or there, but it's kind of indicating that you're not being able to tussle with the big boys over a little bit more of a consistent basis. So that's definitely a good indication of maybe the teams that are struggling and the teams that aren't quite ready for this level of competition.
Yeah, and I think the other thing for me tonight that I want to look at, I mentioned Carnage and Victim Rise, but on the other end of the spectrum, can teams like Golden Cat, Cerberus, Buriram, can they continue to sort of just keep in touch with Q Confirm? Obviously, a lot of that depends on whether or not Q Confirm continue their awesome start here. A lot of people sort of having their take after the first 5 games are all pretty much convinced that Q Confirm is the best team right now in this lobby here for APAC. And if they're able to continue that trend that they set on night 1, I can't see anyone beating them. In saying that, as long as those teams below them, Cerberus, Golden Cat, Buriram, like I mentioned, if they can just continue to put the pressure on Q Confirm, from what we saw in Charity Showdown, Q Confirm, who got off to a good start, ended up just being reeled in a bit. They ended up finishing somewhere in the top 5.
They finished second.
They finished second, but they again, like PCS1, got off to an amazing start. In the end, Division X ended up taking the win. So provided those teams that are just below them can just stay in the race, continue to play well, maybe Q Confirm will sort of just slip up again at some point and let them take first place.
I will say, actually, for Q Confirm, it was second place, and they were equal placement points, actually, with Buriram. They just actually managed to get a couple more kills. So the overall total was 137 points for both Q Confirm and Buriram, and it was really just coming down to that kill point tiebreaker. And you're exactly right when you say that they started well. In fact, they actually finished okay as well. They had some pretty decent games towards the end. It was sort of day 2 and early day 3 that kind of let Q Confirm down in the Charity Showdown, which is where Division X obviously was able to pick a lot of their points up. So we're going into that stage of the competition right now, Xenox, and for Q Confirm, some pretty important matches coming up.
Yeah, exactly right. That's what I'm sort of just trying to see what transpires now going into not just tonight, but I guess even the start of next week as well for Q Confirm. Like, if they roll tonight in a similar manner to they did on night 1, as I said, I don't see anyone catching Q Confirm, but they've still got to put in the work. And there are teams that are hot on their heels, Jordan, Cerberus, Golden Cat, Buriram, even teams like Moggy, Divine Fury, still thereabouts, and then Bahamut makes up the entire top 8. Erangel, we go for game number 1 here tonight for day 2 of PCS1 APAC, and it is, of course, Q Confirm leading the lobby currently. We'll see how things shape up, though, by the end of the night.
Yeah, it's interesting that we get to see a bit of an indication as to what we're getting out of Erangel as well. You can see Cerberus picking up 42 points on Erangel, even more than Q Confirm, which is in line exactly with the statistics that I'm talking about, Xenox. And to throw a number in your direction, Cerberus picked up 94% of their placement points and 84% of their kill points on this map. So it's going to have to be a big start for Cerberus, or a massive turnaround on Miramar if they want to keep themselves in that top 5 discussion today.
Well, as we just kind of breathe a bit, one of the things that's obviously very noticeable right now is Astra going towards Severny, Jordan. Now, we very much saw them going to Watertown for the most part. I think almost all 3 games of Erangel on night 1. They had a lot of contention, though, with
Eagle Shooter Sentinel, it was.
Eagle Sentinel, yep, that was the one. So they elected to change their drop location. Now it looks like they're being met by DRC Gaming, though.
Yeah, I mean, the unfortunate thing about that is it's not a location that DIC has been dropping at all in this competition either. So both Astra and DIC have actually changed up their drop locations, and perhaps without knowledge that the other team was going to do that. So in a sense, I guess the idea here for Astra, at least, was that they were getting contested and they didn't want to get contested. They wanted to play their own game. And so they've changed up their drop location. But DIC has also changed up their drop location. Now, I can't tell you why DIC has changed their drop location, because they weren't actually being contested yesterday. They were taking Gatka Field relatively okay. But for some reason, today, they've changed up their drop. And, well, Carnage has kind of moved into Gatka Field, is what I can see on the map stream. So there's a few changes from even what we saw yesterday. And it's not necessarily all just teams that were being contested.
Yeah, very strange. But at the same time, you've got teams that have finished off night 1, gone back, watched the VODs, wanted to see what can we change, including that, of course, is drop locations. Maybe DIC have seen that Severny is available as well. Didn't quite get the memo from Astra, who, from what I know, is that they were dropping Severny in scrims, apparently. So Astra
Right.
definitely feeling like this was available. DIC maybe wanting to throw a spanner in the works for Astra. Not sure exactly. See how it plays out. The good news for Astra, though, Jordan, is they've got at least some recent experience in having to deal with another team at their drop location.
Yeah, certainly. A team that's not being challenged. Oh dear, Bryn, that's unfortunate. He's just been headshot out of his UIs there by Theraton, or well, MSC. And it's Rosita Jr. who will pick up the first point of today for his team. Little unfortunate for Carnage. They haven't really been getting the ball rolling at all, and that's certainly not going to help. But what I did want to say was that one of the teams that we're not expecting to see hot dropped at all is going to be Q Confirm, who have arguably one of the best drop locations in the game in Pachinki, center of the circle, and best team in the competition right now. So there's not going to be anyone that's really too eager to try and challenge them at the moment. And they're certainly sitting pretty with the way that this circle shift has initially come in as well, Xenox. It's looking like a pretty standard one just across the majority of the mainland. And so they've got a really central position here. I think for Q Confirm, it's basically the best start that you could have asked for.
Yeah, reminder though for you guys at home that want to keep an eye on the map in a more constant position, PCS_map on Twitch to have the live updated map at all times, so you can keep an eye on the circle shifts where everyone's rotating, moving, and looting. Of course, the pick'em codes will be on your screen at some point tonight, so keep an eye out for those as well as we have a look at Team Cerberus for the moment. Second place currently. MSC Teraton still chasing down Carnage. Rain's able to get away, and they'll just turn back around over the Gatka Fields region. Pretty easy rotation, I guess, for MSC from here, just pushing in to a more eastern direction towards the Pachinki, Potato Hill way. Carnage lose one, but they're a team that just really needs to try and stay alive as best as possible, Jordan, to get those placement points. Unfortunately, only having 3 is going to make it more difficult here moving on.
Yeah, a lot of teams are going to be having that same kind of a discussion tonight. I think Xenox, Victim Rise definitely been struggling up to this point. They're sitting in 15th place, and so far no points coming from the placements for them either. It's a little bit unfortunate, but I guess it is what it is, and maybe things can turn around for them. It's quite strange when you consider that, you know, they're a team that's got control of Rozok, which is, again, another pretty premium drop location here on Erangel. And yet they've not been able to get themselves into the placement points at all. You would think that they should have better rotations in than a lot of teams, and as a result, be able to get some placement points on the board, but that just has not been the case.
Rossiter Jr. just driving around Gatka Fields with no real care, although depending on knowledge of the drop locations of teams around them when they were dropping out of the planes, they would have had a pretty decent idea of how many teams would have been around the region of Gatka. And in this case, they knew that Carnage were around, but they're just playing very ballsy, driving around without a care in the world, Jordan. But that's sort of the style that we see a lot of the times from these players and teams in the Southeast Asian region. The gears and setting, though, for Noctown of Moggy Esports, you do like to see that.
Yeah, what DPI do you play at, Xenox?
I play at 400 DPI, yeah.
I play 800, actually, so I got a little bit of a higher sense than you, I guess. It's interesting always to note, you know, and I think a lot of the time you do see these pro players having a lower DPI setting. It tends to make aiming a little bit easier because you're not over adjusting and you're not getting that sort of shaky aim that you tend to get from high sensitivities.
I apologize, Jordan. I've lied to you. It's 800. I just checked.
Okay, that's cool. We're on the same page then. You know, I like a bit of 800. I don't have a huge desk, so obviously also affected by what your in-game sensitivity setting is as well. So you don't get a huge idea exactly of what they are looking for. But generally you see someone with 400 DPI and you're thinking it's probably a pretty low sensing game as well.
John, Gearbox on the move, 400 DPI might probably be a common factor. Back over to Astra and DIC. JJ Leo just hanging out patiently on the other side of this garage wall. Extreme Nikus, from the looks of it, Jordan, aren't going to have much of an idea here. Both of these two teams have now pushed down to this compound away from Saverni. Sound south. JJ Leo does get a big shot onto Nikus, but he hasn't got 2 to contend with. The immediate refract from Nikus comes in as soon as Extreme was knocked down. Well played from Astra, moving as a pair. Now Zoid starts to push in as well. So they've got the numbers here, along with Linksy coming in that Darcia. The nade from Anquan towards Linksy, and Zoid makes the position as soon as they pushed out. Linksy takes a bit of that damage, down to about 60% health, and another nade equipped immediately from Anquan as he pulls back. Astra don't have his location covered. 74R1 back over towards the Reds as they look to still flush out Extreme and Nikus, and Extreme has been revived, healed up, 4 up for Astra.
This could be a good grenade, though, coming in from 74L1. Doesn't quite land in the window. Otherwise, that would have been the end of Extreme for the second time. That would not have been fun for Astra, but it seems they have won this minor engagement, and DIC are going to get the heck out of there. They're not interested anymore. Spam coming through from Nikus and Zoid, mate, but DIC will escape with one player dropped. Still, not the end of the world, but first blood for Astra in this, what I imagine would be a night-long skirmish on Erangel if they both continue to drop in Severny.
I mean, well, that's going to be something that we will hopefully keep track of as the night takes place, you know, whether or not either of them keep dropping Severny. I mean, DIC may look to move. Astra may look to go back to Watertown, which from what we saw on the drop here in game 1 was available. Eagle Sentinel Shooter didn't go to Watertown this game. So that could be something that Astra look at as we have a look at our PCS1 champion projection from here on out. You confirm with a 35% as Vanotica just gets breached by Entry Fragger, a man of Eagle Sentinel Shooter. They're on the board as we are 5 seconds away from phase 2. I would have liked to have had the projection stats up just a little bit longer, but of course with this timing, phase 2, it's a center circle. Not too much is going to happen from that though.
Yeah, absolutely. Eagle Sentinel Shooter in an engagement early on in the piece again here on Erangel, and I'm not sure that I necessarily like to see that, Xenox, because they are one of the teams that has struggled to get placement points on the board. So for their sake, I'd much prefer to actually just see them getting a bit of a safer rotation in here and maybe playing that long game, similar to perhaps what Cerberus is doing at the moment. They've set themselves up pretty nicely. With some shots through, though, for Saki as he sees Day Trade on the rotation past him. Looking like everyone's going to get out of there relatively okay. But at the moment, you know, we see that circle shift, phase 2 just popping. Everyone's starting to rotate in. Q confirm, right on top of Potato Hill. That's going to be, I think, a premium position. That's where everyone's looking to rotate to. But it may be a little more difficult for these guys down on the southern coast to do that, because they are kind of getting locked into some engagements against each other.
Definitely agree with you that Q confirm over towards Potato Hill. Probably going to have the favorable position as this game does transpire. Down south, I don't think Cerberus are in a bad spot either. And the other thing with Potato Hill as well is it depends on how many teams sort of turn their attention to that position and want to make their way up there. If you've got 3-4 teams all wanting to go to Potato Hill, it can become very chaotic. As MSC start to make their way out of the Gakka fields towards Pachinki, may just want to take a pit stop at the church. We'll see if they continue to push past it though. If they do, the next best location for them is probably the farmhouses on the side of the Pachinki Fields or Potato Hill itself. They may just want to take a breather though, at least for the next 2 minutes, see what phase 3 brings us. Because if we do go north, then it's looking more like an Apps school finish. If we go south, something like Snake finish around where Cerberus is currently looting, and of course Central, then we know Potato Hill is going to be the finishing point at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay to sort of just hedge your bets at the moment. You don't necessarily need to dive straight into the center of the circle, particularly with some of the shifts that we've been seeing so far in PCS APAC being quite hard shifts, and there's always the possibility that this does go back towards the west, and you know, then MSC is going to be feeling a little bit more happy about how things have panned on out. DIC are also rotating in from the Gatka fields, and they may well run into MSC fairly shortly if they continue on this current trajectory that they're seeing. What's going on, whether or not there's too much towards that warehouse near Pachinki? Doesn't look like they've spotted MSC just yet, but nor have they committed to it, so they'll be okay for now. Bubu Ram down here by Farm, which is one of their favored drop locations, will be coming in from Milta, I guess, and they'll be happy to see that there's not a whole lot going on actually on this side of the circle. Well, Astra going to be rotating down from the north. They obviously dealt with DIC a little bit earlier on in the piece, but as a result of taking that longer engagement, it means that they are unfortunately one of the teams that comes into the circle a little bit later on than the majority. You can see them, I'd say, with one of the less favorable positions at the moment, and they'll have to work hard to get into the circle if it doesn't shift towards them, which it hasn't. Taking a look at things there, it's gone straight down into the center and right on top of Potato Hill. So we were talking about that a little bit earlier on. And Q confirm Golden Cat will be quite happy. Maogi Esports, even Carnage to an extent with those farmhouses out to the eastern side of Pachinki might have the ability to farm up quite a bit of damage at the moment because teams will start to rotate in their direction. See how this all pans out because there'll be a lot of moving and shaking going on right now. DIC in particular, one of the teams that was hugging the circle and is going to have to move as a result of this shift. Kamuk now hiding below his Dacia. We'll be hearing the shots that are being put out by Astra, calling potentially for a bit of backup. I'm just watching Fury on the map, on PCS_map, and seeing what they're trying to do. It looks like they're going south. It looks like the rest of Fury aren't too interested in taking this engagement. You'll see Waikika will get himself in the Dacia there and back off as well. Linksy keeping an eye on that, but I think we'll see not too much of devastation for the Oceanic fans. Seeing Fury and Astra going up against each other. Monty has been knocked over though. I'm not sure whether that's from Gearbox or not, but they're going to capitalize on it. I have to imagine that it is. And we'll go and pick up that flag. So that's good decisiveness from Gearbox, knowing that's their opportunity to get across the Pachinki field, getting that knock onto Monty, and they have capitalized on it. Leaves B2 and Rain alone for Carnage because Bryn was knocked down earlier on in the piece as well. So quite unfortunate this game so far for Carnage, and it seems their fortunes have not changed from yesterday. Astra will now opt to make their move. VTR kind of a little bit in the way of where Astra might want to rotate in. There's a 2-2 split actually from VTR. So if Astra do end up deciding to crash one of the compounds, there could be a problem for VTR. Fury's going to go past Buru. Ram Jukes, he won't be too keen on seeing that at all. That's an unfortunate loss for Fury, and no trade coming really back from them. Ronan has gotten the knock onto Edie, but in the meanwhile, Waikika fell as well, and now the blue starts to push in. Ronan in all sorts of trouble. He's going to try and get out of there, but it's not going to happen. It's just an ill-advised rotation from Fury that has got the better of them. Linksy, in the meanwhile, gets a knock onto Levi's. And it is not looking too good for Fury as a result of that rotation. Insight has a UAZ that's lacking 2 wheels, and it might just be about to blow up sooner or later if those shots continue to come in. He is going to have to jump out, but doesn't in time. And Buriram United Esports will eliminate Fury Australia in 16th place as the first loss for tonight in PCS APAC day number 2. Some good points on the board there for Buriram early on in the piece as well. They're one of the teams that is in the chase. 4 kills for them, 4 points on the board for them as well. And I think we are going to see this next circle coming in. Phase 4, straight into Potato Hill again.
You know what else we're going to see, Jordan?
You're
going to see me come back.
Oh, I didn't even notice you were gone. I was having so much fun.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right. Hey, look, I'm just glad we're back in. Although you're going to have to probably guide here.
Fury.
Fury, okay, they're out early. That's not something that the Oceanic teams would be happy to see. Buriram, though, 5 kills early gone. And I did say in the pregame, Jordan, they were a team that I had my eyes on to continue their strong form that ended night 1. God Meow's going to get the knockdown of the flush onto Flash. 6 kills now. Decent start for them here for match number 1 of day 2. Norge, though, going to be knocked down. Although not flushed by Poochills, runs out of ammunition. A save is Zagul, who gets the elimination for Cerberus.
Yeah, good stuff for Cerberus. Divine Esports did see Levi's knocked earlier on in the piece by Linksy, but seems he's been picked back on up okay. They have a bit of information as to what's going on for Buriram, and if God Meow continues on the trajectory that he is, he may find himself in a bit of a crossfire, and he has indeed. The grenade's going to be thrown on out. God Meow has no chance. Namc will finish him off with the barrel, and God Meow will not be getting rezzed. There is no chance for Buriram, who are in a real spot of bother. You can see the rest of Cerberus now starting to push in onto Buriram as well. They know they have an advantage here, Xenox.
Yeah. Well, DIC Gaming out in 14th position. And Cerberus looking in a pretty good spot, but they're going to have to continue to move into this next circle. Blue is now moving. Turtle spotting Haisaki, who can now push behind the tree and at least take this fight. Only for a moment in time, though. A minute and a half until phase 5. Can't stay there forever. Astra, Zoid just watching on from a distance. Linksy at the top of Potato Hill, just keeping that spot under control for them. Oh, Subban cannot stand still like that. Zoid mate's always just going to take your head off cleanly, as Extreme also got Nam C. 3.
Yeah, good stuff from Astra. Divine certainly copying the brunt of it. Nikki looks like he will get res back on up here in the smoke. And Cerberus don't want to be involved in this all that much longer. The circle's starting to push at their back. They know that they have to get in. And actually, this has been a really nice rotation in from Astra. You think about where they started this game and how dire it was looking for them coming in from the outside of the circle. Now they're actually center circle. They have control of Potato Hill, and they have good information as to which teams are around them. We'll turn our attention back towards another Oceanic team, which will be Carnage down there to the western side of Pachinki, dealing with the Gearbox fellas, or Gen rather, in the building that both Carnage members are in control of. And for now, neither team has to move. B2 and Rain definitely don't want to be moving. That's a good grenade from Jun, already putting a player down low. The Molotov coming back on through. This is certainly not a fun situation for Carnage to be in. I don't know if Rain's going to survive. He does, one tick away, but the grenades are still going to get thrown on in. Here comes Gearbox, and I dare say this will be the end of Carnage. They'll have to hit some great shots to survive. B2's gotten one, Rain another, but it's just not enough. There's way too many Gearbox players, and a 2v4... You can always imagine which way that is going to go. Little circle update for you as well. It's gone for a hard shift, something that we've been missing since early on in day one, but this time up to the northeast. And that'll favor Astra, that'll favor QC continually. Maogi, very, very happy to see that kind of a shift. Same for VTR, but some big points available for a lot of those teams that are favored by that circle shift. To confirm, 3 kills on the board, some decent points out of day one so far. And day two, looking like it's starting pretty nicely for them as well. They're a solid team and controlling this high ground very nicely, making the rotations difficult for MSC, Gearbox, Eagle Shooter, Sentinel as well, going to be in that mix. So for Q Confirm, they actually are really a big gatekeeper for this circle. They are the one that is keeping the majority of teams at bay, being on this dangerous edge. And I'm not sure really how they'd feel about that, to be honest, because on one hand, the opportunity does present itself to pick up a lot of kill points, and then make the placement points a little bit more difficult to find. Well, MSC are going to have to move. Circle starting to push out their back, and they've unfortunately got Gearbox to deal with, but luckily, maybe for MSC, Q Confirm is going to help them out with a few shots onto Gearbox, although I think they're probably going to suffer much the same fate once Gearbox has been dealt with. Kill feed really starting to pop off now, as a lot of teams do have to take difficult rotation paths in up hills in particular, because we are looking towards the top of Potato Hill as being in the circle. So anyone that's sitting down the bottom is not having a good time at all. QC, Q Confirm, grabbing themselves another point as another kill goes their way. 4 this time. And Gearbox already suffering a deficit. MSC were eliminated in the meanwhile. Jayers has gotten the knock onto Jun, and it's just not looking like a fun rotation in for Gearbox at all. It's a farm for Q Confirm and for Astra, admittedly. Lynxy on the kill feed there, picking himself up another one. So Astra certainly putting in a good name for themselves here in day 2. Toyman, however, has been knocked down, so that's perhaps the first misfortune that has been faced by Astra. Nikus goes down as well, and that's not looking too good. We might be seeing the end of them here. Extreme and Lynxy trying to hold on. It's Jexy who's causing most of the problems. It wasn't, I guess, enough to deal with all of Atletico. Here we go again. Astra, I should say. But they have certainly struggled. Well, they're going to get Nikus back on up, Xenox, so they might actually be not too disappointed by that. I thought they might lose Nikus as well. But to be honest, that hasn't worked out too poorly for Astra, as long as Extreme can deal with Basil, which he does.
Yep. Osaki, though, did get the knockdown onto Nikus just prior to that. Still 2 up. Never mind, make it 1 because JN just finds Lynxy from behind. Nice knockdown. Has the nade, looking for the flush, or at least maybe even a combination of the flush and Extreme. Extreme at half health, has to be careful. Fortunately, rolls down the hill and away from him. Extreme's got so much pressure, though, from both sides. In the end is met from JN. JS, though, then also spells the end for Gearbox. Q Confirm running away with this first match now. 7 kills and they've picked certainly right up where they left off on night one, Jordan.
I have to agree with you, Xenox being that third party coming in there as well. They've netted a couple more kills off the back of that engagement. And now if you take a look at the map as well, they've just got full control really of the southern area over towards the west as well. There's just nothing going on apart from Q Confirm, who are going to wait and see where all of these teams are going to engage from, but they're all going to engage each other before they end up fighting Q Confirm. So this is looking like, to be honest, if things continue to go the way that they have here in this first game, Q Confirm might well pick themselves up another victory. It'll be their third for PCS APAC Series 1.
So it makes it so much harder as well for those teams below them to have the morale to catch up and keep trying to stay within touching distance. Cerberus have done okay this game, still 19 points behind. And look, there's still so many games still to be played, but what we're trying to sort of insinuate here is this trend is now continuing for Q Confirm from night one over to night two. And if they can get to around that 110 to 120 point mark by the end of the night, they're going to be so difficult to catch going into the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone has to do something about it. And I'm not sure really that I'm seeing anyone that really can. Q Confirm may get pushed by Golden Cat, who are kind of the other strong-looking competitor in this remainder group. We've got all four players alive, far up to the north, but they are down the hill. That's the disadvantage for them. Q Confirm with a 2-2 split, controlling the southern and western parts of the circle. And letting everyone else really take those engagements while sort of pinging them in the back or in the side. Divine copying a brunt of those bullets. Augie Esports trying to deal with VTR at the moment, and Jet is firing a few shots across through the smoke. Two players knocked on Augie Esports though, and they've got Divine above them. And VTR below them, so it's not a fun place to be in. I don't think this circle's fun to be in at all, to be honest, and apart from if your name is Q Confirmed, because they just seem to be stealing a lot of the frags, stealing a lot of the kills, taking all the positioning, and letting everyone else do the dirty work.
Exactly right. I mean, but we kind of touched on it at the beginning of this game when we mentioned Potato Hill as a very valuable position to be in. In the end, the way, of course, the circle dictates whether or not that's going to be true or not. In the end, in this case, it did. Golden Cat, you know, they're going to be in the circle, but they're at a low ground position compared to Q Confirm. Victim Rise going to be able to move past Monkey, taking out Jet, but how much do you really give them a chance from this sort of position? Still much better from Victim Rise, who were down the bottom with Carnage, Jordan, if you recall. So they have been able to basically go from last to 13th position. They're going to get their first placement points. Q Confirm, though, with 4 alive, top of this hill. I don't see anyone else winning this game.
Well, I mean, look, it is 4v4v4, and we know things can go wrong very quickly in a game like PUBG. So Q Confirm, they can't really necessarily rest on their laurels right now. They do probably have the best position, but if VTR and Golden Cat both decide to push in the direction of Q Confirm at the same time, that's where things can come unstuck. So we just need to ensure that they keep an eye on what's going on here, ensure that they don't get sandwiched. VTR are a little bit on the move. Kamals has got himself a good spot. There's some knocks coming in on both sides. Golden Cat suffering too. Sixax and Tonkay down. And it may well end up being VTR and Q Confirm up against each other at this rate.
Live is finishing off Sixax, and the odds of really Q Confirm not being if Q Confirm don't win this, it's a throw from this point. The only thing I can see happening is if somehow Victim Rise ignore and don't really get into a fight with Golden Cat at any point, and then they all sort of just tag team onto Q Confirm. But you can see already, like, Victim Rise have to push forward. Golden Cat also have to push up. They're going to just collide regardless. I mean, Q Confirm could watch on if they really want to and just let them kill each other. But also at the same time, if you're Q Confirm, this is a really easy opportunity to pick up kills. So much pressure on Victim Rise, you consider the blue. Look how close they are. Then down the hill, you've got Golden Cat. In front of you, you've got Q Confirm. It's tough for these guys here, even though they've got 4 alive.
I mean, I think the luxury is there for Q Confirm that they can even try to play a little bit aggressively at this point. You know, they're well clear of Cerberus in second place. They're 20 points clear of them already this early on in the competition, so they aren't feeling any pressure at all. They can afford to play a little bit more aggressively and see if they can even increase that lead further, right? If they finish off the next 3 or 4 kills or get, you know, something like 6 kills out of this, they're just going to skyrocket even further ahead. If they die, they lose a couple of players, okay, just retract back a little bit, see if you can play for those placements again up towards, second or potentially even first place, I guess. But it's not going to cost you all that much at the end of the day because you still have that astronomical lead over the rest of the competition. Of course, right now, what they are doing is really smart. They're just pushed forward. They've taken control of the circle. They've almost kind of cut the circle in half with their positioning. And so there's almost no situation where they get screwed over by RNG or screwed over by the circle here as we head into the very late stages. It's going to be them to dictate how this circle plays out.
Tonight, though, just getting very, very close to Victor Ryan's, maybe too close. Chibarit able to spot him. 4 health, they're not able to get the knockdown on him, and now Q Confirmed can also start taking shots on the victim Ryans with the knockdown onto Kamal's. Gems takes a bit of damage though. Q Confirmed don't want to have anyone knocked down or missing towards the end of this. Chowman has some easy shots though. Tonke, Maximus, it's a firing range for Q Confirmed right now. They just slaughter Golden Cat, and Victim Rise are now eliminated at the hands of both Golden Cat and Q Confirmed. At the very least for Golden Cat, they're going to get second place here, Jordan. By the end of this, they're going to be about level points with Cerberus, but Q Confirmed continue to just pull away. Is anyone going to be able to stop them?
I don't think so at this point, Xenox. That was just utter.
It's the second day for PCS1 APAC. We've already played through 5 matches, 5 more to come tonight to round out week 1. Welcome back, Jordan. We've got 3 games of Erangel to be played tonight, 2 games of Miramar. Of course, next week is going to be our Miramar week. But for tonight, the teams that have had success on Erangel will get their opportunity to further that success tonight.
Yeah, certainly a few teams that we're going to have to keep an eye on tonight, Xenox. I've been crunching the numbers over the course of the last couple of days and seeing who's been sort of punching above their weight a little bit on Erangel. Teams like Cerberus and Gearbox were the 2 that sort of really shone quite a lot on Erangel and quite significantly let the ball drop on Miramar. You sort of also look towards teams like Fury, Moogi, and MSC as probably teams that we'd say did perform better on Erangel than they were expected to in comparison to the amount of games that they had. A lot of those teams having about 100% of their placement points coming on Erangel, so that doesn't leave a whole lot, obviously, for Miramar. So, look, on one hand, it's good. You got 3 games of Miramar today, so a good chance to pick a few points up if you're a team that's feeling a bit more comfortable on that map in particular. But you still have to look at next week and think, well, if we haven't managed to find even a single placement point on Miramar thus far, how things are going to go if we get to next week. So there's certainly going to be some issues that probably need to be shored up over the course of the next week if that is going to continue to be the case for those teams.
Yeah, before we get into the specifics, I guess, of the actual teams, with 5 games tonight, that'll put us at the halfway mark, of course, for this season of PCS1 APAC. Getting to 10 out of 20 games, Jordan. Realistically, I guess, sort of, if you're a team, where would you want to be sitting right now? Around probably 120 points by the end of tonight would be a really good mark, and around 100 points, I would say, would be the ideal point where you'd want to be sitting. 120
points would be absolutely phenomenal, Xenox. I think if we go back and look at the Charity Showdown, the total points for the winner was 165. So I think if you're probably sitting around 80, 90, you're probably pretty happy with how things have gone yesterday. Throughout the couple of days. I know what you're talking about, though. What you're saying, obviously, you've more or less gone with Q Confirm's total from yesterday and doubled that and gone, all right, 120 points, you'd probably be happy with that. But you do have to remember they had 2 first places and a third and a 5th as well. So they were very, very consistent over the course of yesterday. And I'm not sure that you can necessarily expect that to happen again tonight. So for me, the number I'd probably be aiming for would be about 80 or 90, and I'd be pretty happy going into next week.
Yeah, of course, for those who maybe missed the last couple of PCS tournaments that have been happening in all of the regions, North America, Europe, and of course, APAC and Asia. $200,000 for each region in-game sales due to the Pick'em challenges as well, going to contribute to that. And of course, there will be more Pick'em codes coming up on your screens throughout tonight to increase your chances of picking winners and such. I know I did my Pick'em votes the other night. I did kind of cheat, Jordan, and wait for a couple of the games to start. So it's still the same, of course, but having that extra knowledge, I believe you get the first week, and then after that, I don't know the actual specific day. It's like July something, I think. And then, of course, you can't vote anymore. But of course, there's the overview. Yeah, there's the overview of the point system and the games for today as well.
Well, I went to do it actually yesterday, and it said I could still do it again in 7 days. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm just going to wait and see how things are gone after halfway mark. But really, at this point, I think you'd be putting your pick'ems towards a team like Q Confirm.
Mm.
I don't know who else you sort of thought was particularly impressive, but I think they were far and away the best team yesterday, which is obviously evidenced by the fact that they're sitting at the top of the standings. But as you say, we've got 3 more Erangel games today, and then a couple of Miramar. Things could certainly change up next week. Although what I will say for Q Confirm is that they were reasonably consistent across both maps.
Yeah, they're definitely the front runners of the pack right now, at least coming into day 2. A team that I actually ended up picking, I'll say it, Buriram United. They started off really slow, Jordan, 8th, 13th in their first 2 games, but then 3rd, and 2nd with 6, 6, and 7 kills respectively in those final 3 games. So they're a team I've got my eye on coming into tonight, whether they can continue to sort of keep the ball rolling a bit and sort of make that comeback for Q Confirm, who do have a small lead. Not their biggest lead that they've had. Of course, they had 41 points after the first 2 games on night number 1, 64 in total now, as you can see the leaderboard on your screens in front of you. This is, of course, only 5 games, Jordan, so it's hard to take too much stock into the leaderboard at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. There are a few sort of trends that you can start to notice, and teams being a little bit more favored on one map or another. Obviously, you mentioned Q Confirm got off to a bit of a banger in their first couple of games, and admittedly, they did slow down, but it's kind of hard to keep up a pace where you've got an 8-kill win and a 13-kill win back-to-back. And at the end of the day, they got a 5th and a 3rd with a 7 and 8 kill respectively. So overall, even their quote-unquote weaker, poorer games were still very, very good. So Q Confirm had a phenomenal day 1. I'm probably not expecting to see them getting 64 points out of today as well. If they do that, they're going to be hard to catch. Let's just put it that way. A couple of the other teams I think that are pretty important to kind of keep a look at. Bahamut Gaming, one in particular, who's currently sitting in 8th place, had a horrible run on Erangel yesterday. 15th, 14th, and 11th in their 3 games there. Turned it around quite substantially on Miramar, and so we're looking at them as probably a team that might be able to come back at the end. A team going into week 2 that are probably going to be feeling a little bit more comfortable maybe on Miramar, and what they're going to be able to do from there, I suppose, is what we will really have to keep an eye on. But if they can at least put a few points on the board, get into the placement points for today on Erangel, we may actually see them jump up a little bit higher than something like 8. And the storyline is pretty much the same, but flipped for Fury, where they started really, really well on Erangel. They had a 5th, a 3rd, and a 4th, and then sort of let the ball drop quite a lot on Miramar. So they're another one of those teams that's having, half of the games, or in this instance, 60% of their games going pretty well, and then 40% not going too well. So they're sitting in 7th. It's not too bad, but they're definitely going to need to be consistent across both maps, and they're going to need to put in, a similar performance tonight on what they did on Erangel yesterday if they're going to be able to retain that 7th place.
Something that's noticeable, of course, with that leaderboard down the very bottom, Carnage, Victim Rise, still the only 2 teams that have yet to find any placement points. It was a bit of a storyline on night 1. A couple of the teams down the bottom were lacking in that department. Of course, they've got some kills. 8 kills is not horrible. Nothing too special, though, to be said. Those are the 2 teams I'm looking at tonight, and potentially even the team just above them, Eagle Sentinel Shooter, to try and find another gear, Jordan, try and find a step up, continue to compete, because for the most part, besides Q Confirm running away with everything, it has been a relatively even lobby, this APAC region, down to, say, Day Trade Gaming at 13th position, who, I know they're only on 18 points, but a good night here tonight could get them back in the running.
Yeah, definitely. To touch on, for at least unfortunately for Carnage and VTR, neither of those teams having picked up placement points, I think obviously that's an easy thing to look at and say, okay, we need to fix that, right? It's one thing to be able to put some kills on the board, but you definitely need to be getting into the placements. And I'd even argue that I think placement points are more dominance again from Q Confirm, and it didn't even feel like in any single one of those fights, in any position at all throughout that game, were they under pressure. Now, granted, they did have some favorable circle shifts, Enox. I will say that they had to move from Pachinki to Potato Hill, and that was it. It wasn't a huge rotation for Q Confirm, but they really took advantage of it. 11 kill win again. The consistency continues to be there for Q Confirm. They've got to be happy with how they've started off day 2 as well. Touching on some of the negatives, I guess Fury out in 16th place. It's been their better map, Erangel, so far in this competition. So to see them have that rough start, a poor sort of ill-advised rotation through Buriram, a bit tough to sort of swallow, I guess, for Fury, but there's still time to kind of bounce back from it. Astra, they come in 4th overall, but their placement points only 1. They had a lot of fighting going on around them. They got a lot of kill points. It's good points, but again, just another one of those games that hasn't quite been able to be converted and could have been something greater than what it was.
Yeah, but I think for Astra, you take that 10-point game's pretty decent. It's just that the downside is Q Confirm runs away with it. I mean, if Q Confirm get nothing from this game, they would be sitting at around 60 points. So that would mean Astra would have been able to sort of get back in the race for first. But because of Q Confirm's game, despite Astra's 10 points, Q Confirm still get an 11 extra points as well against that. Golden Cat doing well. To a degree, Cerberus, 6 points is okay. Buriram, 6 points is okay. But when your opposition is getting 21 points, when they're going to be like 30 points above second and third now moving forward, that just spells disaster for these teams. And we sort of touched on it a little bit before in terms of morale. When you're having to sort of catch up these really, really large numbers when that team is in first place by such a large margin. And if by the end of the night, Jordan, if it is something like 40, 50 points with only 10 games to go, that is just demoralizing.
Yeah, for sure. I think for that first game, the real winners, of course, Q Confirm and Golden Cat, really. The fact that Golden Cat still in third place going into today, have been able to, sort of step forward, take up to second place. They're towards second place, at least. I think they're still sitting in third overall by 1 point, maybe. But they've certainly closed that gap. They're starting to really shift forward, and I think that's really good to see for Golden Cat. It's kind of a case of, yeah, look, if Q Confirm is performing phenomenally, at least let's try to keep pace with them. Let's try to make sure that going into the final day, it's nothing more than a 20 or 30 point gap, which is difficult to overcome, sure, but it's still theoretically possible. So I think for quite a few teams, they definitely are going to be looking at just trying to keep pace with Q Confirm at this point.
Yeah, look, I think for Q Confirm right now, they're also in this very valuable position where they don't need to have these 20-point games much more. You only need maybe 1 or 2, and then as long as you're averaging 6 or 8 points a game from here on out, and then even then, they can now afford to slip up and have a 0-point game here or there. So a lot of the pressure has sort of been relieved off their shoulders moving forward, increasing sort of their own chances of being able to go on and take first place, which if I was Q Confirmed, this would be sort of the task at hand for them. This time around, unlike Charity Showdown, let's keep this up. Let's actually take out first this time. We're going to go to a break. On the other side will be game number 2.